In this video, I'm going to give you an overview of long-term disability in New Brunswick. I've broken the video into three parts. Part one being long-term disability basics, part two being sources and types of long-term disability, and part three, I'll talk about how to apply for benefits. Now, my intent is after watching this video, you will have a basic understanding of how long-term disability works, the types of benefits that are available in Nova Scotia, and how you can go about applying for them. So let's dive into this. Part one, long-term disability basics. In this part, I'm going to cover four areas. What is long-term disability? How does it work? What medical conditions qualify for long-term disability? And finally, the difference between own occupation and any occupation coverage. What is long-term disability? Quite simply, long-term disability is a financial benefit paid to someone who becomes unable to work because of a medical condition, disability, or illness. These benefits are typically paid monthly, so you get one payment a month. Sometimes it can be weekly, and the amount of payment will usually be between 60 and 85% of your pre-disability salary. Now, it can be less with some government plans. You will also get these benefits until age 65, and they're going to be paid through the government, insurance company, or your employer. Number two, so how does it work? Long-term disability works based on an application process kind of method. So whatever type of plan or is out there, they're all different programs and plans, policy, insurance policies. Whoever is running each of those things, you have to actually apply for them. So you have to take the initiative to get the application forms and send them in, then they'll review them and determine whether to approve or deny your claim. You can't kind of apply to them all at once. You have to go through each of them individually, and you will have to kind of manage that process yourself. All right, now what medical conditions qualify? This is a big one. It's a big misconception that the most important thing is your diagnosis and how serious your medical diagnosis is. That's not actually true. What's more important than the diagnosis or medical condition that you have is what are the symptoms, impairments, and limitations that are caused by that condition. It's possible to have a condition that has very minimal limitations, while someone with the same condition can have very serious, significant limitations from the illness, just because the symptoms are different, the level of disability is different. So you'll always want to focus on that. For example, multiple sclerosis, people acknowledge that this is a serious condition. However, simply getting that diagnosis will not result in an automatic approval of your long-term disability. In fact, I've had to fight claims for many people with multiple sclerosis. So what will they look at? They will look at how serious are your symptoms at this point in time, because there are people with multiple sclerosis who can keep working for a number of years, sometimes for many years. It will depend on how serious your symptoms are and if they're permanent and keeping you out of the workforce. So focus on that. Last part here, own occupation versus any occupation. These are terms you're going to see come up. It's important to understand that long-term disability the way it defines disability is based on your ability to do work. There are two categories of work that these plans will look at. They'll look at disability from doing your own job. That's called own occupation disability. And they'll look at any occupation disability. That is your inability to, because of your disability, do any type of work. Most plans are going to cover the any occupation. So that is usually what you'll be dealing with. However, with group insurance, long-term disability insurance, or individual long-term disability insurance, you will often run into coverage for your own occupation. That's very important. It's easier to prove that you can't do your own occupation than it is to prove that there's no occupation out there you could do. That's easier than what you do. So keep that in mind when you're applying to these programs, because what will happen is sometimes your doctor will make references to, oh, they can't do their job, but where the insurance company or the government agency will say, well, that's not enough because this plan covers them and will only cover them if they can't do any job. So keep that in mind. In part two, I'm going to take you through the sources and types of long-term disability. In New Brunswick, there are three sources of long-term disability. You have insurance companies who issue policies in the province. You have the province of New Brunswick itself, and you have the government of Canada. Let's look at these. So first of all, let's start with the insurance companies. Insurance companies will issue kind of policies and coverage in three types of ways. The first will be an individual policy, and I'll talk about that in a second. There's group insurance, and then there's something called special purpose insurance plans. So individual insurance is number one. That is going to be a policy that you buy directly from an insurance broker. It covers you, and it will set out that it will pay an X amount of dollars per month if you become disabled as defined in the policy. Individual policies are most complicated. They can have different definitions of disability, partial disability. So I would encourage you, if you are thinking that you may have to go off work on disability, if you have an individual policy, get legal advice, get a lawyer to review the policy and go with you so that you plan this out properly. There's a lot more pitfalls there for people with individual insurance policies, but they are great policies, but you have to be very careful with them. Number two, we have group long-term disability. It's common for people in New Brunswick to have group benefits through their work. Group benefits are going to include things like medical and dental plans, drug plans, that kind of thing, vision. Those plans can also have long-term disability included in the fine print. If you didn't really notice, you should go look to see, does your plan have long-term disability or short-term disability? And if it is, that's a great benefit to have. It usually will cover you for up to like 60 to 75% of your pre-disability income, and the benefits can go to age 65. It's also common for these group plans to start out covering you as long as you can't do your own occupation, which is great, for up to 2 to 3 years. And then after that, it'll switch. You can keep getting benefits, but you'd have to show that your disability was so severe that you can't do any other type of work. Last, there are these special purpose insurance plans. This is kind of a mixed bag of things, but it's worth throwing in here. So you can have things like creditor disability. This is disability insurance that's attached to loans, visas, mortgages, that kind of thing. If you get disabled and meet the criteria, it will either pay the monthly premiums or that you have to pay, or payments that you have to pay for the loan or whatever, the minimum payments, or it will just pay off the whole thing. You check to see if you have these because it's great benefits if you do. Number two is critical illness. This is a special type of insurance where they have a list of these critical conditions. And if you get diagnosed with one of these, so this is one where the diagnosis is key, then you just get paid out X amount of money, like a lump sum payment, a one-time payment. Same thing with dismemberment insurance, that's another one. Instead of having a critical illness, it will be a certain type of impairment, like you've lost your function of your hand, your finger, your eye, your arm. It's kind of a meat chart is how it's described, but it will have, like, if you lose an eye, you get $10,000. So it's these lump sum payments for a specific impairment. This type of coverage is often included with group plans, so you should check to see if you have it, if you've had some type of injury that has resulted in that kind of impairment. Next one is life insurance. That's a pretty common one. It's covered on somebody. If they die, the beneficiaries get the money. Travel insurance is the last one. That is going to cover you if you're traveling abroad for medical expenses. Keep in mind that you may have that through a visa or other ways that you might not know that you have it, but you can have it attached to visas and different types of things, like a Visa credit card type of thing. Province of New Brunswick. The province of New Brunswick pays disability benefits through two programs. Number one is WorkSafe New Brunswick, which is workers' compensation. And number two, through the New Brunswick Disability Support Program. Let's start with workers' compensation. WorkSafe NB is the name of the program. It will pay benefits to people who become injured and can't work because of a work-related injury. Now, your employer also has to be covered under workers' compensation in New Brunswick, but most employers are, so that's not usually an issue. You can get up to 85% of your lost wages, your net wages, up to a maximum coverable income of around $69,200 or so in 2002. That just means if your income is higher than that, you'll just get the benefit as if your income was $69,000. It's unfortunate if you earn more, but keep an eye on that. That's as of 2002, and that can change dramatically year to year. Now, these benefits, if you get them, can go to age 65, and you can also get other things like medical and other devices and drugs and things that are related to your condition. So workers' compensation benefits are fantastic if you can get them. Now, the Disability Support Program in New Brunswick is similar to that in other provinces. It will cover any resident of the province who meets the definition of disability, which is an any occupation kind of definition, and meets the financial criteria. So these programs, unlike everything else I've mentioned, the Disability Support Program through New Brunswick, like other provinces, has a financial threshold that you have to show your family income is below a certain level. If it's over, you earn too much and you won't get the benefit even if you are disabled. So keep that in mind when applying for these benefits. Now, the final source of benefit is, of course, the Government of Canada, and there are a bunch of programs that they have. So let's run through them, 4 actually. So there's CPP disability. Most people are aware of this. You get this if you've paid into the Canada Pension Plan. You have to have paid into it, and your disability that stopped you from working has to happen close in time to when you paid in. Now, it doesn't mean that's the first symptoms. It just means when you get to the point where you had to stop working, that as long as your disability stops you from working close in time to when you were working, okay? It doesn't cover you if you stop work for other reasons and then 10 years later you get disabled. That would not work because there's too much of a gap there. It has to be close in time. So if you had to stop working because of your disability and you've been paying in a number of years, then you probably have CPP disability coverage, even if you haven't applied for it right away. You can still get it. Covers up to about $1,400 a month as of 2022, and it goes up each year with inflation, and it pays to age 65. Basically at age 65, it just converts over to retirement CPP. That's pretty much it. So keep in mind, if you may have this benefit, it's a good one if you can get it. Next one is EI sickness benefits. These are paid through the federal government through the EI program. Very easy to get these. A doctor just needs to certify that you're not able to work. They won't question it beyond that, and you just send in your application. They only cover for 15 weeks, up to 55% of your pre-disability income, up to a certain threshold, and a maximum amount, and that's pretty much it. It's meant to be a short stopgap to hold you over, because some people recover within that amount of time, but if you need to go on long-term disability or CPP disability, those have waiting periods where you have to wait a certain amount of months for it to kick in, and this will cover you in the meantime. All right, next one is disability tax credit. A lot of people ask about this. It is not a month-to-month benefit like the others. It is simply means that if you get approved for this, when you file your taxes, if you paid in income tax to the government, the federal government, you have a credit that will allow you to get somewhat of a tax refund. That's all it is. So if you haven't paid into any taxes, you don't have any taxable income, there's nothing to get back. There's no benefit to you. But you can transfer the credit to a family member who lives with you and who financially supports you. They can get the benefit and apply it to their taxes. So it could be a benefit to your family, even if you don't work and have taxable income. All right, the last one, and I hesitate to mention it because it's not approved, but it's not a benefit yet, but there's a proposed program called the Canada Disability Benefit through the federal government. If it's approved, this program is meant for people who have a income under $20,000 through all their, if you're already getting disability benefits and your income is under $20,000, this benefit is meant to top you up to $20,000. That's essentially what I think it's going to be. I don't know for certain because it's not approved yet, but I think that is the intent. So if you have workers' comp or LTD and you already are over $20,000, it's unlikely this benefit is going to help you. It's meant for people who maybe only are getting CPP disability or only are getting provincial disability and their income is below $20,000. This will top you up to $20,000, I think. Check back on here for updates in the future and follow us on Facebook, where I'll give you updates on whether this program actually gets approved, and if it does, what it looks like. All right, last but not least, part 3, I'll briefly cover here how to get long-term disability benefits. I've already mentioned it above, but earlier in the video, but you will need to apply to each program that you may be qualified for. So the first thing to do is just figure out which of these may I qualify for, and then learn a little bit more about each program, get the forms for each program. There'll be forms for you to fill out, forms for your doctor to fill out. Get those forms completed, sent in. Once you do that, each of these plans or programs will assign a claims representative to review your claim. It's called a claim when you send it in. They will review it. Often they'll have questions for you. That's fine. Answer the questions. They will sometimes ask for more medical records. I recommend you send those records in. And once they have all the information, they'll make a decision. If their decision is to deny your claim, there's every one of these programs I've mentioned has appeal processes there. So that means you can ask for a review. You can see why they denied it. They'll usually put it in writing and you can get your doctor to address that. If you're not sure how to approach it, you can get advice from like a law firm like us, disability lawyers. But know that all of these programs have a point where there will be a final decision. That final decision is made by a decision maker who is going to be independent from the agency or insurance company that you're dealing with. So keep that in mind. Normally when you get to that level, I highly recommend that you get legal advice. I recommend legal advice early on, but you may want legal representation once you get to these final decision makers, because after that, that's it. You get your last chance, and if you get denied, it's possible to be wrongfully denied these benefits, so you don't want to make mistakes so that you get wrongfully denied. All right, that's all I have for now. I hope you now have a good sense of what's available out there. If you like this content, please go ahead and like our channel, subscribe to our channel, like this video, leave a comment, and head on over to our website, resolutelegal.ca, to sign up for our email newsletter where you'll get more information and special invites to things that we don't offer to the general public. I'm David Brannen, disability lawyer. We'll see you back here next time.